Alrighty, what is up guys? Excuse the poor audio quality. I have done the best I could with my audio settings, but my setup is not great for this, so kind of just is what it is. But I came up with an idea over the past couple days of a series that could be fun, that might get me back into YouTube depending on how little editing I have to do. And it is basically, will it drift? Today, I got the Polaris RZR. Just got it set up, got a halfway build on it, and basically my goal is to run it down the big drift zone and the big Forza Horizon 5 map and see if I can hit 1 million points with a given car. My original idea was that a lot of cars are probably going to suck and maybe do like 800k or something, but I did a little bit of testing yesterday with some other cars, and I think 1 million is probably the mark to beat. It's surprising what you can get across with that score. So that 1.34 there, personal best, is with a all-wheel drive, drag tire, try-hard drift build, and that was before they changed the score system so that big scores were actually possible. So I'll probably never beat that personal best, but 1 million is still actually surprisingly attainable with a lot of cars. So now that it's nice and dark and you can't see anything, so what I had to do for the tune, as far as just the upgrades, basically was max it out pretty much entirely. I put the i4 turbo rally motor in it, basically just getting as much horsepower as I could. The rear tires there, I increased the wheel diameter about halfway, because if you leave them super fat like the fronts, you get a lot of slop, and this thing is already soft enough and the balance is weird enough as is that I was trying to basically stiffen it up as much as I could. But I didn't want to make it too heavy by getting the giant rims on it and a couple other factors. So I went with a little bit of an intermediate there. Alrighty, as for my tune, take a quick look. It's not perfect yet. I actually ended up being pretty grip limited in the rear. Having a hard time getting as much grip in it as I wanted to. So all the way down on the PSI. On the rear, the gearing is not perfect, doesn't really matter. I'm going to push it out just a little bit there. Alignment. So actually, let's do this first. So the springs, I'm trying to get as much weight to shift to the rear as I can to get as much grip and as much acceleration as I can. So the rear is all the way down and the front is all the way up. I'm basically trying to get it to lean back on the rear, put as much force on the rear tires as I can. This rear springs are definitely softer than I would like. It's a little spongy, but again, I'm trying to get as much weight to shift to the rear as I can. The front is kind of just keeping it halfway stiff so it's not rocking quite so much, but the front's not as important. Damping, none of this really matters. It's a pretty smooth track. Most of this is pretty irrelevant. There's no arrow, no brakes really, don't need braking. Differential's locked, good, cool. Anti-roll bars, I originally had it about like this, and I kept over-rotating like crazy, and anyway, changed a few settings, ended up bringing it down to about here. Seems to be a better balance. It's a little bit softer than I would typically run, but for this, I'm having a hard time controlling it when I get super stiff. Anyway, back to the alignment. So typically I run about dead, like this, with most of my cars. They're stiff enough that this, I mean, maybe 0.2 degrees of negative. I want to keep them pretty flat, get as much grip to the rear as I can, get as much contact as I can. With this one, as it squats down because it's such a soft suspension, even running it at zeros, I actually end up, when you turn the telemetry data on, I actually end up at a degree and a half of negative camber. So I've been running 0.5, and that seems to get me pretty well flat on the lead rear tire. So if I'm drifting around the right hand, the lead tire would be the left side, and this is keeping it pretty flat there, just getting as much grip to the rear as I can. So that's the basics of tune, pretty general. I either run them pretty soft or my tune's either pretty soft and getting as much grip to the rear as I can, or pretty stiff, which is much more wieldy, I guess, a little bit easier to control. This is a very unfortunate combination of the two, where I'm trying to keep it stiff because it does like to flop around, but at the same time I am having to do some weird stuff here in the springs to get as much weight onto the rear as I can. So it's kind of an interesting build, but I think 1 mil is going to be possible on here. I haven't done it yet, but I think it's possible. So on that note, let's give it a shot. This is, like I say, a very unwieldy vehicle, surprisingly difficult to control. I thought this was going to be pretty easy coming into it, since this was such a small and lightweight vehicle, but I was very wrong. Generally, I can make anything slide, hence Will It Drift series is me trying to drift anything, but this is surprisingly difficult. So, I'll stop talking over here, try and focus, and let's see what I can do for a score. One thing I will go ahead and mention here is that as far as the just initial upgrades I did, the only thing you can upgrade with the tires is going to the off-road compound, which makes it better off-road, but it actually makes it worse on pavement. And so I actually kept the tires stock because I knew obviously I'm going to be keeping this on pavement, and I was already going to be pretty grip limited. So if I was gripping it too much, I would put those on and try and slide a little bit more. But since I'm actually already having a hard time getting enough grip, I elected to keep the stock tires on. Otherwise, aside from that little wheel discussion, I had everything else is pretty much maxed out. Very difficult to control, like I said. It does not hold much angle at all. Some cars, it's hard to get them to go sideways. This thing, it'll happily go sideways, but only at to like 15 degrees. Yeah, and you dump it. So, let's try that again. Alrighty, here we go for take number 2. Hopefully I get it this time, because this is very not fun to drive. So, I would like it if this is my final attempt. I'm sure if I nailed it, I could hit that all in one go and not have to do the switchback. Damn it. Alright, take 4, I think. This better be it or I'm going to cry. I also don't have time for another take today, so I really don't want to have to come back and do this again. Man, this thing is not kind with the e-brake. Sometimes it'll save it, and sometimes it just absolutely puts you in the ditch. I do think I'm running quite a bit cleaner though than last time. I'm pretty sure I'd already spun out several times by this point. Oh, I saw that coming. Motherfucker! Alright, I'm gonna have to come back to this tomorrow. That's unfortunate. Alrighty, so here we are in day 2, about to give it another shot. What I decided to do with the tune is actually go from the very soft and lean back, trying to get as much grip to the rear as I can, to more of just a solid, hopefully more drivable one. To get a little bit more grip back in the rear, I went ahead and downsized the rear wheel to try and get a little more sidewall bite, get as much grip to the tire as I can. But then I dropped down the front suspension, stiffened up the rear a lot, stiffened up the front just a little bit more, and everything else is pretty much the same. It was mostly just stiffening everything up, especially in the rear. So it still doesn't hold a lot of angle, but it's a little bit less of a sponge than it was before. So if I can make it down the mountain without spinning out and failing, I should be fine. So let's go. Well, that's a not great start. Ah, this is unfortunate. Let's restart. God damn it. I can definitely feel that lack of grip. Man, it transfers way easier like this, just transitioning from left to right, but if I overcook it just a little bit, it's gone, because there's not enough grip in the rear now to bring it back. I really have to limit my tire speed when I'm coming off of an e-brake. Because after I e-brake, when I get back on throttle, if I have too much wheel speed, the rear just walks around the front and spins it. So I have to be really careful to either keep it in a low gear or to not hit the gas very hard to where it doesn't walk. Man, I went for the stiffer, more controlled tune, and that did not work. I'll go ahead and switch it back here. Alright, it's a little bit different than I had at the first, kind of that first tune. The front is a little bit stiffer than it was, just to kind of make up for how loose the rear is. But anyway, I really hope this is the last one. Man, this thing grips way more. And yes, this would be a lot easier if I made it all-wheel drive. But that would be too easy and would defeat the point. So, rear-wheel drive it is. In Horizon 4, I did a lot of all-wheel drive drifting just because I was very competitive and I was always just going for the biggest score I could, but since I got rid of the drift adventure and we're screwing with the scoring system and the drift zones, and none of it really matters now. For me, it's just about trying to have fun vehicles and kind of an arbitrary goal, like what I'm doing here with hitting 1 million with just random cars. So, rear wheel's more fun, more challenging, and more true to what drifting really is. So, that's what I stick with for now. Man, you can see how much the suspension rocks when I go from brake to gas, the way it sits back. So not only is the front a little bit more stiff, but the rear is actually even more loose. I'm trying to get as much grip to the rear as I possibly could, and it's a very interesting vehicle, to say the least. Come on. You can do it. You can do it. I hate my life. God. Okay, one more time. The really unfortunate thing about having to do this again is that we all know it's possible. I've been right there twice with pretty crappy runs. So we all know it's possible, but I have to do it. So here we go for what is hopefully the last time. Fifth gear was too much there. Yeah, step right out. Ooh. One thing I have a bad habit of is when I go from e-brake, I always hold the throttle and go straight into the clutch dump whenever I quit e-braking, because I'm used to cars that actually drive and have grip and whatnot. That's like the exact opposite of what you should do with this car, and having a really hard time breaking that habit to keep from spinning it. In 100K and not a lot of room to do it, but it might just be possible. Fuck yes. The Polaris RZR, will it drift? In A-Class, as a matter of fact, rear-wheel drive. Yes, it will, but I will never do it again. That was horrible. But now we know. Here's episode 1, and yeah, more to follow. I've got a couple good ideas to go. So, see you in the future.